What is up, everybody? Welcome in to Talkin BS. I'm your host, as always, Steven Zamora. If you can, please follow me on Twitter at ZamoraBSB, the best place for any and all show updates. And today, I'm bringing you another off-season preview. And if you clicked on the thumbnail, you already know what time it is. Today, we are covering the Indiana Pacers, one of the brightest future young teams in the NBA. Just lost in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Boston Celtics. Also, shout out to my brother Mike, who actually just recently moved out to Indiana, to Gary, Indiana. So shout out Mike. If you're from Indiana and you're watching this, take care of my brother. You know I love him. On some basketball stuff. This one's going to be pretty quick. Like I said, you guys got a young team. Not a lot of stuff that you really have to take care of because a lot of it is just internal development. But I am going to go over some things Indiana needs to improve on. How this goes, and for my subscribers, first of all, thank you for watching this again. But if you're new here, this is how things are going to go. We are going to give you the statistical weaknesses that Indiana needs to improve on. We are going to give you the tools that they have at their disposal to improve this team. We're going to get a checklist of things that the front office must take care of before going any further. And then we're going to get into the fun stuff. We're going to cover the draft. We're going to cover some trade options, and we're going to look at free agency. And at the end, we're going to come up with a nice 10-man rotation that hopefully you guys can be really excited about heading into the next season. With that said, let's get right into it. The Indiana Pacers off-season preview. So first things first, we got to look at what the actual problem was with the team last year and where you guys could improve. Indiana, very well known. You guys had one of the best offenses in the entire NBA, led by, I believe, future MVP Tyrese Halliburton, and a lot of really good young players who know how to run the floor, can make their shots. You guys made a big acquisition at the trade deadline for Pascal Siakam. That was huge. I think he's the perfect piece for this team. He is going into free agency, but we will get into that later. But what is one of the weaknesses, one of the biggest weaknesses but probably the biggest hindrance that you guys had on your season all year was your defense. So let's look at some stats where you guys ranked among the other 30 NBA teams. You were first in the league in points per game, 27th in points allowed per game, 29th in points in the paint allowed, 28th in rebounding, 24th in opponent two-point percentage, 27th in opponent shooting percentage, 23rd in opponent shooting efficiency, and 20th in blocks per game. So first in points per game, 27th in points allowed per game, which is, you got to get more balance on this roster. Got to go and see if you can get some guys who can really fix the defense on this team. But the silver lining is that you got some tools in your toolkit that can address these problems. So unfortunately, you have no first-round picks in this year's draft, but you have the 36th, 49th, and 50th overall pick in the second round. You have a bunch of young wings and guards who can be consolidated for a bigger name or better fitting piece. The Pacers are projected to be around $10 million over the cap, but about $20 million under the luxury tax and nearly $30 million under the first apron. They own full control of their first round picks in 25, 28, 29, and 30, with the top 4 protection in 26 and in 2027. But now that we know where you guys were bad at, and we know what kind of things you have in your arsenal to take care of these problems, let's get a checklist going of the things that the front office must look at before we go any further. So to address the first question, how close are we really? You made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but you lost to the Boston Celtics pretty handily. It just shows that Boston was on another level than you guys, and there are some things that you need to improve on to go any further into this. But the Eastern Conference is pretty bad. There are ways for you to make it back pretty easily. Like I said, a lot of it's going to be continuity, but like I said, we got to fix that defense. We got to see how we can at least get that defense to league average. If we can do that, I think that's going to help this team leaps and bounds. As far as Paul George, I'm not going to go too far into that really, just because I am a believer in the continual development of this team, because you guys have so many good young players, right? You got Ben Shepherd, Andrew Nemhard, Aaron Nesmith, Tyrese Halliburton's only like 24. You guys still got a lot of improvement to make. I think a key piece here or there is going to really put you over the top. So Paul George, if he's open to a comeback to Indiana and he's willing to take a good deal, sure, I think he'd be a really good piece. But personally, I'm not going to throw like a max at him or anything like that. And I'm not going to, give up on Pascal Siakam in order to get Paul George. From everything that I've read, the fans really don't want Paul Paul George back anyway. But I do want to add some defense, and I want to add some toughness. James Jones was signed for a reason. It'd be cool to have James Jones back, but he is an older guy. Let's see if we can bring in some guys who can bring some of that toughness. At this portion, I would cover the draft, and I don't really see a need to try to get back into the draft, into the first round, just because, like I said, you guys have so many young guys on your team already. I want to kind of focus on developing those guys first before worrying about going and getting draft picks and stuff like that. And, to me, I want to get more veteran pieces anyway. I have a trade idea I think will actually very much improve this team, especially defensively. It adds some size, it adds some length, and it should add some toughness. So Indiana receives Robert Williams III and Matisse Thybulle from the Blazers, and Portland receives Benedict Mathurin and Isaiah Jackson. So let's cover Portland first and why they would do this. Benedict Mathurin is like 21 years old, right? He fits the timeline around Scoot and Shaden Sharp. That is a big benefit to this trade for them. They get to move off of a guy who didn't play for them pretty much at all last year, and another guy who's a rotation guy for them. Two guys are both above the timeline that Portland kind of sees themselves as, and they kind of brought them in to be able to flip them in the future anyway. Like I said, they just don't fit the timeline in Portland. I think they would fit in Indiana a whole lot better. And then they bring in a guy in Mathurin who's, a former top 10 pick, really good, talented guy. Just doesn't really fit Indiana's play style, in my opinion. And they bring in another guy at center who can do a lot of the things that Rob Williams does, but on a cheaper contract, and he's a lot younger. So you can develop him how you want, mold these guys, in your image and how you want them to be. For Indiana, I think it's pretty obvious, right? You upgrade your defensive front court and your forward depth. Rob Williams is a big man. He's 6'9", 6'10", 240 pounds. He's one of the few bigs in the league who is capable of stepping out on the perimeter and staying in front of guys. A lot of the wing players and stuff like that, like guys like, I don't know, like Kawhi Leonard or LeBron James, stuff like that. He's got the body big enough to do it, and he's quick enough on his feet that he can actually hold his own. Not to say he doesn't get blown by, right? No center is, every center is going to get cooked by Steph Curry and, John Morant and stuff like that. But, for as big as he is, he's very nimble. He's very good at that. So he is a different kind of player than Miles Turner, which is good. We want some more versatility. Not to say he's a bad, post defender either, though. He's actually one of the better post defenders in the league. He's an elite shot blocker. He's one of the best in the league at that. His only problem is staying healthy. He missed almost all of last season with an injury. Between Miles Turner and him, man, you are not losing those 5 minutes. I think those are just two really good defenders. They both bring a lot of different stuff to the table, and you're not going to have a lot of drop off when Miles Turner takes a seat and you have to bring in Time Lord, But then on the wing, you got Matisse Thybulle, who pound for pound, I think is one of the best defenders in the league. His wingspan is insane. It's probably one of the biggest, height to wingspan ratios in the NBA. He's not super quick on his feet. He's not going to be a guy who like functionally and just is like one of those solid defenders who just like stays in front of their guys. No, he's a playmaker. He is a defensive playmaker. He gets in the passing lanes. He's poking the ball out, from behind when guys are dribbling in the lane. He uses his length really well to stay in front of guys. To me, that's going to open up these fast break opportunities, right? Both of these guys are very good athletes. Matisse and Rob Will are very good athletes, and they just fit this Indiana scheme so perfectly, right? You want to run and gun. You want to get up and down the court, man. You got two guys here who are going to change the game on defense, create a bunch of havoc, a bunch of turnovers, and get you flying down the court on the other side. With all the havoc and chaos they're bringing, man, you guys are going to end up scoring 140, 150 points on a regular basis. Now that we got that trade out of the way, let's hit up free agency. Let's see what's going on there. So we have all the cap figures up there on the top right. A big focus for free agency this year is going to be re-signing Pascal Siakam. Pascal was brought in at the trade deadline. You traded Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, and a bunch of picks and stuff for Pascal Siakam. So all intentions for Indiana are to bring him back. But the nice part about it is that Pascal has made it very clear he intends on re-signing with Indiana. So that makes it really nice for you guys. And then the additions of Rob Will and Matisse Thybulle are actually going to hit the cap pretty significantly. You're adding about $12 million to the books, but it's not going to hinder your ability to re-sign Pascal, because when you traded for him, you traded for his bird rights, which gives you the right to sign him to a max extension and move over the salary cap in order to retain him. So that shouldn't hinder anything. With the re-signing of Pascal Siakam, you should still be around $5 million under the luxury tax. And that, if I am correct, that should allow you to get the non-taxpayer MLE. But like I said, you are going to be $5 million under the tax. So if you want to use it, you have to only use so much money to get to the tax. So basically, you have the taxpayer MLE to play with. You have around $5 million. But with that said, let's look at some free agents that I think would be really good fits here and would be affordable. So in this scenario, right, we upgraded the backup 5 spot and the backup 3 spot. I trust TJ McConnell as your backup point guard. So that basically leaves a hole as your backup shooting guard and your backup power forward, which is nice because you guys have drafted very well in the past few years. And you have picked up Ben Shepherd and Jarris Walker, who just happened to be a 2 and a 4. Ben Shepherd played really well at the end of the year last year. He even played some playoff minutes and impressed. Jarris Walker, on the other hand, didn't really get too much time, but he was picked 8th overall last year for a reason, because he has a ton of upside. And if you can get him going and get him some minutes, I think it could really help you guys a lot. So in my opinion, if I'm the GM, my first option is to insert Ben Shepherd as the backup 2 and insert Jarris Walker as the backup 4. To have some insurance, let's look at a backup guard and a backup forward. So let's start with the guards first. DeAnthony Melton, Lonnie Walker, Aaron Wiggins, Taylor Horton-Tucker, Gordon Hayward, Chris Dunn, Killian Hayes. So DeAnthony Melton is your classic 3-and-D guy. I think he'd be a really good fit here. Lonnie Walker's a bit more of a ball handler, point guard-ish. He's a little undersized. Aaron Wiggins is one of the better three-point shooters in the NBA. Taylor Horton-Tucker, I think, would be really good here. I think he's probably my pick out of all these guards because he's a he's a change of pace. He's going to be able to handle the ball for you, but he puts a ton of pressure on the rim. He is very good at driving to the rim and creating a bunch of havoc because he'll get by his guy. Guys will sink in. You'll find all those open shooters that you guys got on your roster. So I think that's where we're going to go for guards. If you don't want to go that way, you can go Gordon Hayward, right? Have a reunion. I've seen a lot of fans say that they're not really interested in Gordon Hayward, though I think he would be a pretty good fit here. Chris Dunn, very good defender. I think, if you want a guard defender, that should be your target right there. Or Killian Hayes if you're looking for, a guard defender with some upside. Now that we have discussed our guards, let's look at some forward options. KJ Martin, Najee Marshall, Trenton Watford, Keita Bates-Diop, Derrick Jones Jr., Nicholas Batum, Bol, Kyle Anderson. KJ Martin is probably my favorite of all these. He's going to bring some athleticism. He's a really good athlete, and he's a young guy. I think he would be a really good fit here. To get him into your culture, I think would be great. Najee Marshall, he's a big forward. He can handle 4s, he can handle 3s, and he had a career high in 3-point percentage last year. So that's another really good option. Trenton Watford, he was kind of underutilized in Brooklyn last year. I think if he had a place where he could get some more minutes, I think it'd be really beneficial to him, and I think he'd end up blossoming in that role. Keita Bates-Diop is another forward who could really defend. Derrick Jones Jr., good athlete, and he's in the finals right now with Dallas. Good to have that experience. Nicholas Batum is an older vet. You got a lot of young guys on your team. I think it'd be pretty smart to bring in a veteran presence like, and a good role model like Batum. Bol is, something a little more fun. If you're just looking for, a really tall guy who can handle the ball and shoot and, bring in something fun to the team, I think Bol is a good option. And then Kyle Anderson, he's slow-mo. I don't know if he necessarily fits great with the Pacers and how they want to run their offense, but in a half-court set, man, he's very beneficial. It's very nice to have a guy like that. And on the defensive end, he can handle some of your bigger 4s and, 3s out there. All right, so with that said, we got our nice 10-man rotation in. Let's check it out. We've got Tyrese Halliburton backed up by TJ McConnell, Aaron Nesmith backed up by Ben Shepherd, Andrew Nembhard backed up by Matisse Thybulle, Pascal Siakam backed up by Jarris Walker, and Miles Turner backed up by Rob Williams. Then on the deep bench, we got Taylor Horton-Tucker, KJ Martin, Keita Bates-Diop, Kendall Brown, and the 36th overall pick. Now, the 49th and 50th pick as well, you could sign them into two-way contracts. They're not even guaranteed contracts because they are second-round picks. So, if it was me and, you really like these guys, sign them to 2 ways, send them down to the G League, let them develop. What I love about this roster, there's a lot of switchability here. Now you got some real defenders in Thybulle and Rob Williams. On the deep bench, you even got Keita Bates-Diop. McConnell's a pretty good defender at the point of attack. Pascal Siakam's a really good defender. Miles Turner is a really good rim deterrent. So now you got some real defenders on this team. You still have a ton of offense. We didn't sacrifice pretty much any of the offense that you had last year. The only people not on the team anymore are like Doug McDermott, Benedict Mathurin, and Isaiah Jackson. Like, they're good players, but they're not going to hurt the offense, right? The offense in a major part was because of Tyrese Halliburton, Nemhard, and these guys like that. So now we got a defense who matches the offense. You still have a ton of spacing on the team. You could still run and gun, probably even better now because you got real athletes with Thibault and Rob Williams. Pascal and Jarris Walker could play 5 if Rob Williams gets hurt. If that's a problem, you can go out and sign another center. Just because Rob Williams is such an injury risk. There are options there if you don't want to sign Talen Horton-Tucker, or you don't want to sign Keita Bates-Diop or KJ Martin, or even that 36 overall pick, you could use on a center. Adem Bona is supposed to be there around that pick. You guys just have a ton of versatility everywhere, offensively and defensively. I think you are set. Especially if Boston does take a step back like everybody expects them to, this team definitely could beat them. I think you could put Matisse Thybulle on one of Boston's wings, Nemhard on the other one, and I think you got a pretty good chance there. You could throw Pascal on him if you really need to, Jarris Walker. I think a lot of these guys have the size and athleticism to really bother those guys. Let Halliburton, let Nesmith, let those guys do their thing. You got lob threats. You got everything, right? You got a little bit of everything. That's why I love this roster. There's always going to be some disagreements. If you think I should have traded for a draft pick, or you think, it was too much to give up Benedict Mathurin or anything like that, let me know down in the comments. That'll really help me a lot. I'm trying to improve on these every time I do one. But if you did like this, hit me up with a like. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That would really help your boy out a lot. So to everybody who has subscribed, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Without you, wouldn't be able to do this. You guys have a wonderful day. Talking BS. We out.